Joseph emphasized that persons involved in the rearing of livestock need to think as
It is the intention of government to give deliberate attention to all levels of education from
watch in preparation for any eventuality. EMAP, the nationally
until the end brand who will actually make it true. Will the tables be turned?
Be money like at the top moon, but la Messi go hotel here, labor
city that appeals to locals and visitors alike is set to contain
as many as our opinions see, as many as will be contrary opinions see.
Welcome to Issues and Answers, a production of the Government Information Service. I am Lucia. Thank you so very much for joining us. The topic for today is property taxes, and to help me with that discussion is Mr. Mathre and Miss St. Catherine from the Property Tax section of the Inland Revenue Department. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Just before we start our discussion, I want us to lay the foundation. So can anybody give me a little history about property taxes in St. Lucia?
Well, property tax has been in St. Lucia and was brought in by the British government in 1949. Over the years, the Town and Village Council and the Inland Revenue Department has been the custodian of the property taxes. However, in 2000, Inland Revenue became the sole administrator of property taxes in St. Lucia.
I understand that property tax, your section, has different functions and obviously different systems. So can you just give me a little overview of it? So when I come into the property tax department, what services are available?
We have 4 sections. We have the valuation unit and the exemption and objections unit, which is located at Sunny Acres, and the customer service unit and the collections unit is available down at the Herald and Rock Building, waterfront. Cashews, yeah.
That's where you go to pay your taxes every year.
That's right, yeah. That's where you go to pay your taxes. Yeah.
Okay, now, Andrea, I don't know if you can help me with the island-wide valuation that Ms. St. Catherine was speaking about just now. So in 2007, this island-wide valuation was done. What became of that?
Correction, it started in 2002. The project, there was a project and it ended in 2005. It is actually ongoing because of a number of reasons. But the intent of the project was to bring all properties as mandated by government on to our role, island-wide role. Before you had various systems. With the advent of Inland Revenue taking over management of property taxes, it included valuing and assessing all properties. So there was one system. It wasn't a system done by the councils or any other person but the Inland Revenue Department. So as to regularize that. That system, we are now seeing the products of it in terms of people are now receiving assessments based, though it's a lengthy, it's a long time coming, but people are now receiving the revised assessment, because prior to that, the rates, and again, I said, the system of assessing or valuing was different.
Okay, now how does the Inland Revenue Department identify properties to assess, to value, and tell these people, okay, you have to pay property tax?
Well, it is twofold. One is the onus is on the individual property owners, as mandated by law, which says that we have a declaration form, and you need to inform the department of you becoming an owner of a piece of land, or land and house, or house only. So you need to inform the department, prescribed by law, 30 days after which you become the owner. Otherwise, the department, on its routine checks around the island, when we visit and we observe that probably there's a property that is newly constructed and we didn't have it, we will pick up that information and then send you a bill.
When we talk about 30 days after you become an owner, is that after you buy the property and you're paying the loan to the bank, or is it a different way of measuring becoming an owner?
Becoming an owner is several ways. One, for example, you may be a tenant, land tenant. You construct a house on that site. The land does not belong to you, but the building belongs to you. So upon completion of that building, there are a number of definitions for completion.
That's what I was wondering, because, for example, we know there are some people who build in stages. So I might put up my living room, and then 6 months down the line, I put up my kitchen. So are you measuring it by when I complete the entire house, or when I complete sections of the house?
Whenever an individual can reside in the property safely, meaning doors, windows, roof, because your definition for finishes may be terrazzo tiles or whatever. Mine may be just a sheet of plywood, or maybe the ground, just the ground. Depends. Once an individual is able to reside or stay in that safely, we would consider it being complete.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just add that you could also be an owner if you acquire, you sell, you erect properties. Okay, so so there are different ways of becoming an owner.
I think my query really stems because you do get the question. Let's say Miss St. Catherine has sold me a piece of land. I go to the bank, I get a loan for it. I'm paying the loan. We've done the transaction where she signs off, she signs over title of the property, but I haven't gotten the deed as yet. But I'm paying for the land. Does that make me the owner of the land? Do I have to pay property taxes in that situation on the land for a deed I don't have?
Legally, you become the owner of a property, say land, or if you have a mortgage, when the property is registered at land registry, which is the government legal. Before that, you may have a deed, but until such time that that deed is registered at the land registry, government does not recognize you as owner. Right? So it's in a process, but you have not become fully. Government cannot say, you do not have the support of the state when it comes to, say, you have a deed until it has been registered.
Okay, and I really want to go a little bit more into this discussion, but viewers, we have to take a break at this point. Please stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
Agriculture, one of the pillars of St. Lucia's economic development, creating opportunities for earning a living for the farmer and his family. From the field to the kitchen, the St. Lucians are finding creative ways of using fruits, crops, and vegetables grown locally, from local seasonings to special brews, from aquaculture to the cultivation of local herbs for export. A strong agriculture industry strengthens the economy. The country needs your support, so buy local.
Welcome back to Issues and Answers. I am Lucia Ali, and today we are talking about property taxes. And before the break, we were talking to Mr. Mathre and Miss St. Catherine about the property tax section and how it is you become eligible to pay tax. So, Mr. Mathre, you were saying that unless government recognizes you legally, you don't have an obligation to pay tax. So your property has to be registered at the land registry or whatever appropriate agency or relevant agency. When we go to these places, for example, land registry, well, in fact, the Property Tax Department, there's a form that has to be filled out. It's a declaration form. How do we go about filling out that declaration form? What is required? What are some of the information that you need to bring along with you to fill out this declaration form? Okay,
basically it's a self-declaration. The owner's name, husband and wife. These days, the wives need to be recognized. Well, all partners require their names to be on the document.
Why is that?
Sometimes we've been having problems in certain terms that a person say the land is, I've been paying property taxes and not you. And we have had occasions where people come and say, I need to know what's the position of my property taxes. And until such time that we recognize you as the owner, we would not give you that information. Even if you're the wife or the husband, we will not give you that information. So people now require that both names, or we ask that are you married, and if you put both names on it. We require your postal address, your NIC number, if possible. If you have it, well, you must make it available, or a tax account number. You declare that you are the owner, or you may be the agent. A party is out of state, and you're representing that individual. So you declare who's filling the form, must declare whether they're the owner or the agent. Postal address, business address, whether it's land you're declaring, the acreage, where it is located, block and parcel number. You now require to provide us with a recent copy of the land register. And we say recent copy, recent being in 3 months, date stamped, because you would appreciate that things can take place within.
Yes, and especially since we're living on a very tropical island, we're subjected to many climate change things.
And not only that, a property can change hands within a month.
Days.
Yes.
So you may come with a land register that shows that you may be the owner, and that had been last year. And since then you have changed it. Right? And a description, basic description of the property, the size, if a structure is on it, you need to give a size description, the floor area, how many bedrooms, stories, whether it's in a good condition. And we always ask that your opinion of your market value. And I stress it is your opinion. You may have had a valuation done, and we ask you, some people say, but I don't know what my value is. But please put it in. We'll review it, and we will make what necessary changes needs to be.
Oh, I'm very happy to hear that because, a lot of people have been saying, property nowadays, it seems like the numbers just come off the top of the owner's heads. So whether people have questioned whether the market is regulated, how you assess property, how you value property. But we'll go into that a little bit later because I'm still on the declaration form. And so who needs to fill out a declaration form apart from just the owner?
Anybody who transfers property. Anybody who disposes of property must file a declaration. If you erect a property, you acquire or erect a property, you must file a declaration form within the stipulated 30 days in writing to the Comptroller of Inland Revenue. So
if I'm selling land to you, I still have to fill out that declaration form?
No, not necessarily, but if you acquire a property, we look at it when you acquire a property. We place more emphasis on acquisition.
We assume that in selling it, when you sell it,
the
we would have had
come,
that information
yes,
already.
Yes, the deed would come in.
Because you were registered as the owner. So when you transfer in, we do not need that again until such time.
Okay, now what I want to find out, because we have a lot of businesses and government is encouraging entrepreneurship. So as a business owner, how does one start to pay property tax?
As a business owner, you first again have to declare the property. And of course, there are a number of documents that you have to provide. But again, you could call the department and we will give you the list of items or the list of documents that you have to provide when preparing it. But one of the essential things is evaluation.
When you're filling out the declaration form, I know you said, you ask for your post box or maybe your NIC number or your tax number. Can somebody use a deed as a supporting document when filling out a declaration form?
I cannot say yes, you can. While we say yes, we will confirm that by carrying out our research at the land registry, whether you're still the owner. But to facilitate a speedy process, we would prefer a land register.
Okay, now we get to the very interesting part, which a lot of people are afraid to ask about. Because we know we all have to pay taxes, so we know what the taxes are used for. What happens if someone does not declare their property?
Well, there are a number of fines and penalties that is going. If you fail to declare your property, there's a fine of $250. If you provide false information, fines will be imposed. You also have if you don't declare your property, then the mortgage interest that you would be entitled to under your personal income tax, you will not be will not be allowed that thing.
So that means just your taxes are going to skyrocket.
Yes. Well, yeah.
We didn't want to put it that way.
Well, we are encouraging people to pay their taxes. But I know the Inland Revenue Department has certain rights under the law to inspect and value properties for tax purposes. How does that work? What does that entail?
Well, ideally, we note, if, for example, as we did through the project, we would put out a bulletin to a particular area that we will be in a particular area, and we would appreciate that owners are aware and we will be visiting. We cannot specify a particular time, but we will be in the area. We have had occasion where people, well, the homeowners are not present. What we do is from what we refer to as a drive-by, but what it actually is you stay at a distance and you make your best of knowledge, best of judgment call on a property. For example, I may say it is a concrete structure. You may see that from outside. It is the possible measurements. And you would hope that when you'll bring in that information, and when the individual gets an assessment, if it's outside of what or is not correct, you would come in and say to us, okay, I think the information you have is incorrect, and prove to us that's it.
So how do you resolve that situation? So if you, Inland Revenue or Property Tax Section has one assessment and the individual has another, how does the middle ground, how do you reach the middle ground?
The individual comes into the department. We have an objection officer who sits with that individual and they discuss the differences.
Okay, first of all, you must apply at the back of the form. It gives you the option to object, and you would send that into the department. And then, like you said, our officer, we have an objection officer, and he will deal with it. Okay,
so it seems like there are a lot of documents and processes and systems, especially when you're dealing with taxes and the Inland Revenue Department. So how is it that you are able to help the clients along, you know, to make sure that we're doing everything properly, we're doing everything in the correct manner, we have the proper documentation?
Well, currently we have a lot of the information on our website.
Okay.
So for those who have available the computers, can go on. For those who don't, we have flyers that we have at our various outlets, for example, Vieux-Fort, Soufrière, and the towns and village councils, where you can go and get that information. And if you still require, you can call into us, our customer. We will be able to talk somebody through the declaration form.
This has been a very, very interesting discussion, and we're not done yet. We still have one more segment to go, but we need to take a break. Viewers, thank you so very much for staying with us, and we hope you join us after the break.
Don't be negligent.
Care for the environment.
Keep away pollution.
Care for the environment.
Energy conservation.
Care for the environment.
When you making money,
care for the environment.
Work with everybody, Papa say.
Care for the environment.
Hi, this is Invader from St. Lucia. Practice good fishing habits. Stop the illegal sand mining. Don't dump waste in rivers, gutters, and watershed areas. Remember, your environment affects my environment.
When you planning, I say,
care for the environment.
Watch what you throw away.
Care for the environment.
Be intelligent, Papa baby.
Care for the environment.
Welcome back to Issues and Answers, a production of the Government Information Service. Just before we left, we were talking about paying taxes and how you can go to the property tax section of the Inland Revenue Department to get helped along in the different systems and processes. Now, a lot of people may not be aware, but we have a Land and House Tax Act. And under that act, there are several classifications of property. Can you tell me about them?
Okay. We have residential properties. As you would know, I don't have to go into that.
It's where you live.
Right. Reside. You have commercial properties where commercial activity is taking place. be it full-time, part-time, and you have what we refer to as a combination, where, if especially in castries or the towns and villages, where you have the owner residing upstairs and the business is downstairs. So this is referred to as a combination property.
Okay, now I'm getting a little bit fuzzy here because we spoke about a declaration form earlier for property tax. So is there a separate form for commercial owners? And for example, in those towns and villages where you have the person living upstairs and the business downstairs, do you fill out one form or do you fill out both of them, or is there another form that you need to fill out?
Okay, there's one form that must accompany, so for example, the declaration form must accompany the valuation for the commercial properties.
So there's a valuation for the commercial properties.
Right, and that is done by the property owner, the business owner, or the property, not the business, but the property owner. For you may have tenants in your business. They are not responsible. You, the owner of the property, is required to do that. The combination, we've spoken about the residential declaration. The combination is similar. You fill in it and you put in a note stating that you may, upstairs is commercial or downstairs is commercial, and then we come in and we carry out that process.
But I must also add to that the commercial valuation has to be done by a recognized valuer. And you could come into the department again and obtain a list of all our recognized valuers.
And you know, that's very important because again, you need to assess the proper value of the property.
Yes.
And it again affects the overall picture of the valuation, the island-wide valuation. You spoke about it at the beginning of the program. Now we're talking about valuations, we're talking about assessments. And I go back to my earlier statement. Do people just come up with the valuations or the assessments off the top of their head? What do you look for when you're valuing a property?
When you're looking for what you need to look for when valuing a property, well, as I said, the size of the property, location of the property, amenities, I mean rooms, finishes, social conditions. For example, you may have a residential area and you may have a residential area and then you have a mechanic shop, which is not compatible in terms of planning.
So the environment also factors in.
Yes.
So how close to the road it is,
Yes.
you know, whether it's close to a river, what sort of area it is.
Yeah, these things taken, the economy. What is happening in our economy? All of these factors are taken into consideration when value.
So I know you just gave the example about the mechanic shop next to a house. So that, how does that affect the property? Does it negatively affect it, positively affect it? What people want to know, does it devalue it or does the value skyrocket?
It depends on planning. First of all, you have your approved uses. Whereas you have a approved development, and you may have an individual coming in and put it is the onus is on the owners or the landowners, the property owners there, to determine whether they want it here or they don't want it. And as long as you're comfortable with it, we don't have a problem. But it depends on planning, what's your legal permitted, what are you legally permitted to do with that piece of land.
So then that means you work closely with the Development Control Authority,
Yes.
the DCA. So what is your relationship with the DCA? How do you navigate that relationship?
Well, wherever we are, wherever there are questions and we need answers, we call them, we go into the department and dialogue with the building officers, dialogue with the DCA, and we inform them, we share. Because we share our information with intergovernment agencies, planning, land and surveys, land registry, wherever. So we have that understanding where we go in and whenever questions arise that we need clarification for.
Now, you know, I love my examples. So let's say we're talking about DCA has designated a development, right? And so they have their covenants, they have what it is that they would prefer in that area, whether, you know, a building at a certain height, you know, you have the drainage, etc. And somebody builds something, let's say, for example, let's use a mechanic shop as an example again, on that in that development, you know, how does that affect not only one property owner, does it affect all the property owners and their market value of their property?
Again, as I say, we would prefer to use the approved uses. And now we're referring to market. Is it going to be, how does the mechanic shop affect the residents? Is it the smell? Is it the odor? Is it the smell? What does it do to that community? For example, you may have a resident and you cannot get to your home because a man has parked his old car outside your door. Now, as a prospective purchaser, and I come and I want to buy this residence, man, lovely residence, lovely area, we're referring to market value again. I, as an owner of a property, I want freedom. I want to be able to access my property without being hindered in any way. And now I'm coming and I'm saying, wait, what's this? Would you be ready to purchase a property at quote unquote market value, knowing fully well that these conditions affect the property? So market value, when we refer to market value, it's a all-encompassing one thing. It's not just the structure, but we're looking at all the factors as mentioned previously.
Well, these are a lot of factors to consider, and I'm pretty sure that just like every department, property tax section has its own challenges. I don't know if Ms. St. Catherine, you want to speak to some of the challenges, just briefly off the top of your head, that the property tax section faces.
Some of the challenges that we face at this time is staffing, because remember we have to cover the entire island, and we only have 2 valuation surveyors. The equipment that we use too, I guess because of the lack of funding, we are unable sometimes to acquire the kind of equipment that we need, and even the software too, when we need it.
So, and for what do you want to say to the property owners in terms of working with the property tax section? You know, because sometimes people can get a little bit testy and the processes seem a little bit long.
No, well, we're just a phone call away. I mean, you just pick up the phone and call us at 468-4745. This is a customer service or our PBX. I mean, we are there to help. We are public servants, and it is our business to help you. When we help you, you help us, and everything is okay. We are human beings. We interact. I mean, there's people should not be afraid to call the department, ask questions. We are there to serve.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Ms. St. Catherine. Thank you, Mr. Mathur. It has really been an informative program for me, and I do hope for our viewers as well. Viewers, to you, thank you so very much for staying with us. This has been Issues and Answers, a production of the Government Information Service. I am Lucia, inviting you to stay tuned to the National Television Network.
Joseph emphasized that persons involved in the rearing of livestock need to think as
It is the intention of government to give deliberate attention to all levels of education from
Watch in preparation for any eventuality. EMAP, the national
Until the head brand, who will actually make it true? Will the tables be turned?
Money, like at the top moon, but la Messi go hotel here,
City that appeals to locals and visitors alike is set to
many outside opinions.